just drop that in the chat so we can see everybody coming in. So amazing. Oh my goodness. Oregon, Arizona, Iowa, so many people. Okay, great. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know we still have some folks joining. I want to welcome everybody to our DSA post-election call. I'm so excited to be here with all of you tonight. My name is Hannah Allison. My pronouns are she, her, and I live in Lawrence, Kansas. I serve on DSA's National Political Committee, which is our 18-person elected national leadership body. And this past year, just a little thing about me, my coworkers in Lawrence Public Schools here in Kansas, and we organized the first public sector union local of the Communication Workers of America, and we won union recognition. But so to talk a little bit about DSA, for folks who are new to DSA, we are a mass democratic organization, and we are building an organization by and for the multiracial working class. We are funded by our members' dues, so we all pay in a little, we all pool our resources so we can be independent from big corporations and the capitalist class, and so we can have more power together than we would have alone. As DSA, we're part of a big, broad movement fighting to transform our world and to create a society that's free from patriarchy and white supremacy, from capitalism, from imperialism, ableism, and other systems of exploitation and oppression. And we are fighting for an economy and a society that is truly democratic, a society made for the needs of the many, of the working class, not to make profits for a few. And I'm here tonight to tell y'all that we are winning. We are winning this fight to transform our world. So far, 28 out of our 37 nationally endorsed campaigns have won. We have squads in state legislatures all across the country, from Minnesota and Montana to North Dakota, Hawaii, Massachusetts, Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, California, and Michigan. And we won 8 out of 9 of our major ballot initiatives. And we're not stopping there. We are celebrating, like many of you, the big, broad, multiracial coalition, all the amazing community organizations, unions, and national organizations that kicked Trump out of office. And there's so much more we're gonna fight together to win. We're gonna keep fighting for a Green New Deal. We're gonna fight to defund the police and invest in our communities, to abolish ICE, to protect and expand reproductive freedom, and to get real relief for working class people during COVID, to keep building our unions, and to keep building socialist power at the ballot box. So tonight we're going to hear from DSA electeds, organizers, and union leaders about what's happening now and where we're going to go in the fight to transform our world. But first, I want to ask who's on the call with us tonight. So we're going to do a poll. It should pop up on your screen, and you can answer if you are, here we go, a DSA member in a chapter, an at-large DSA member, meaning you're not connected to a local chapter, a new DSA member, you joined after October 1st, you're not yet a DSA member, welcome, or you're a DSA leader in a chapter or on a national committee. So let's see what folks say in the poll. Seen some more amazing folks introducing themselves in the chat. So exciting. Okay, I'm waiting on the poll. I think let's give folks a couple more minutes. Okay, while we're waiting on that, I'm going to go ahead and just kick it over to Christian so that we can jump right in to talking about this analysis of this moment. Christian is my comrade on the DSA National Political Committee and an organizer in Dallas, Texas. And I'm going to kick it to you, Christian, and hopefully then we can get the results also of the poll.
Awesome. Thanks, Hannah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Christian. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm so grateful to be here with y'all tonight. I'd especially like to give a shout out to everyone who is joining us that is brand new to DSA or thinking about joining DSA. Last I checked, which I've been meticulously refreshing this page over and over, we have 10,663 new members. So can I get a hell yeah in the chat if you are one of those people? Just make some noise in the chat if you are one of those people who joined since October 1st, because it's fucking amazing. I'm so glad that y'all are here because you're confirming what we know to be true, that our movement is so much more than election day. We are a 24/7 operation, baby. And while we have establishment Democrats out here trying to undermine what we accomplished together, we know that the vision we have for this world is popular. We know it was millions of Black, brown, indigenous, and working class people and our movements that kicked Trump out of office. We will not yield to the establishment corporate Democrats' watered down version of what is possible. We will say Black Lives Matter. We will fight to defund the police and abolish ICE, and we will keep fighting for a Green New Deal. We are winning, and the policies that change the lives of working class people are winning. A $15 minimum wage because one job should be enough. Paid family leave because here we recognize that the labor that goes into raising children, an increase in taxes on the rich in Arizona to fund education because the rich have been looting us for too damn long. Medicare for all is winning. Even Fox News reported that 72% of voters want a government-run healthcare program. We're in the midst of a pandemic that has robbed us of hundreds of thousands of people. We've been asked to survive with rickety infrastructure and a healthcare system that profits off our misfortune. It is no wonder why candidates who backed Medicare for all overwhelmingly won compared to those who didn't. And DSA is winning. We have a 72% win rate with our endorsed candidates and ballot measures. These candidates and measures you'll hear from here shortly are also explicitly socialists. We are committed to being upfront about our politics because we can't afford a politics of avoidance. A politics of representation is insufficient, and we will not go back to the status quo. As organizers, as socialists, we know the only way to struggle, to grow, is through. We must confront power. We must ask the hard questions. Why can't we have the world we deserve? Who is keeping us from getting it? We won in spite of, not because of the system. We won in spite of an outdated constitution and an electoral college designed by slaveholders. Democracy means every person is heard and that we, the many, collectively decide our future. Right now, our system is drowning out the many in favor of a few. It is unacceptable that we had hour-long wait lines to vote, that people were intimidated by the right and white supremacists while trying to vote, that many were not able to vote. Because voter disenfranchisement also looks like evictions, incarceration, poverty, racism, inadequate accommodation for those with disabilities, lack of free public transit, lack of language translation. But still, in countless places across the country, it was everyday people who were demanding democracy, who were giving rides, helping translate, protecting poll sites, registering voters, fighting to make sure people with felonies could vote in their state, and making sure that there were enough polling sites for us to go vote. It was Black, brown, and indigenous organizers, union organizers who ensured voters could and would be counted in battleground states like Georgia, Michigan, and Arizona. Let's not forget the workers at the US Postal Service who made all those ballots happen, got them delivered, and every other essential worker, the ballot counters, the poll workers, they all made this happen. Look, many of us are here because Bernie brought us together when he said, "Not me, us." But individual politicians will never be enough. Many are here because we took to the streets when ICE tried to take our loved ones away, and we meant every word when we cried, "Not one more." Many are here because we want peace, not endless war. Many of us are here because racism and police violence have brutalized our communities. Many of us are here because the world is on fire and the climate crisis continues to heighten. We must meet this political moment with a mass movement of working class people like you, like me. And no matter how we came to this fight, what issue brought us here, our work will only be enough until every single one of us is free. In the words of Ilhan Omar, you get what you organize for. And as you'll hear from Jane McAlevey a little later, there are no shortcuts to this work. Over the last few decades, the right wing and the capitalist class have fought to weaken the power of the multiracial working class and attempted to destroy our communities and institutions. So we must look at how we build up the institutions, the organizations like DSA that can and will hold us together as we push through. We have the power to move past the narrow-mindedness of the greedy few and embrace the vast imagination of our mass movements. We can celebrate our wins, revel in some joy, while we take note that we have a long road ahead. I'm not going to sugarcoat this. The fight is far from over. We're likely entering a brutal political period in the midst of a pandemic, and many of us are hurting, have been hurting. But together, through sacrifice and solidarity, we can build a mass, multiracial, international working class movement to transform our world. While we are glad that Trump lost, while we are celebrating our wins, we also are not welcoming Biden. We're warning his administration, a better world is coming, and it's time we put those who stand in our way on notice. Now I'm gonna kick it over to Bianca Cunningham on the executive committee of our Afro-Socialist Caucus, who will take us through the rest of the speakers for tonight.
Thank you so much, Christian. What's good, everyone? I'm so happy to be with you all tonight. I want to open with a quote from the chairman of the Black Panther Party in Chicago, former chairman Fred Hampton, who said, "Socialism is for the people. And if you're afraid of socialism, you're afraid of yourself." Well, this weekend, the people were rejoicing the defeat of a fascist leader. And so we were in the streets rejoicing with the people, calling on the protection of our democracy, calling on for them to count every vote, and also putting the Biden administration on notice, like Christian said, to say that we as socialists understand that we can rejoice this weekend, and tomorrow the work continues. Today, the work continues, the fight continues, and the struggle, a new struggle has just begun. I feel so confident in this moment that we are winning, because in the streets yesterday, I saw people who were joyful about defeating Donald Trump, but not just about defeating Donald Trump, but really sober about what lies ahead and how we are going to be able to move forward and hold this new administration accountable for our common goals, like defunding the police and passing the Green New Deal and expanding democracy and voter democracy in this country. And so I think that people have a renewed sense and a renewed fight. I saw resilience in the streets this weekend, and I'm really excited thinking back about 4 years ago how DSA exploded because of the reaction to Donald Trump becoming president. And so I feel like we have won, we have defeated him, but the work certainly continues. And so we're gonna hear from some comrades around the country about what they're doing in their communities and what's going on in their neighborhoods. We're gonna start with Nikil Saval from Pennsylvania. Nikil, welcome.
Thank you so much, comrade. Thank you, Bianca. Thank you for having me. Thank you, DSA. This is like the biggest call I've ever been on. This is like just truly incredible. 516 members, not yet members, new members, just like an extraordinary situation. So my name is Nikil Saval. I use he, him pronouns. I am the state senator-elect for the 1st Senate District in Pennsylvania, which is in the heart of Philadelphia, representing basically the downtown and South Philly, if you all know Philadelphia at all. Won my election on Tuesday after a hard-fought campaign, principally in the primary. And I'm just really, thank you. Wow, a lot going on in the chat here. I am really excited to have had the support of DSA nationally and my beloved local chapter, Philadelphia DSA, Philly DSA, which did so much for our campaign. On the phones and on the doors, and it was just like we needed every ounce of it, and we're just so grateful. I'm also excited to be joining some amazing people in the PA House and Senate. Representative Sarah Namarato, Rep. Summer Lee, Representative Rick Krajewski, who also won this year in West Philadelphia, and Representative Elizabeth Fiedler. I just want to let people know just the extent to which what we did in Philadelphia, we together, all our campaigns coordinated, right? We had strategic discipline in this campaign. We knocked 370,000 doors, made millions of phone calls. We had 8,000 volunteers across the state organized through our campaign, Rick's campaign, Rick Krajewski's campaign, Elizabeth Fiedler's campaign, Kendra Brooks, a group called Pennsylvania Stands Up, which is a statewide federation of groups. We reached 400,000 voters statewide. Our movement family was amazing. The labor movement, I just want to say the labor movement together with the left and socialist movements won this election for us. Unite Here, which is, I come from Unite Here as an organizer, knocked 300,000 doors in Philadelphia. They got 60,000 people in Philadelphia to pledge to vote, 30,000 of whom who did not vote in 2016. So I just want to say to everyone on this call, you're welcome. The world does not deserve Philadelphia, as I say often. But we didn't come together just to defeat Trump. We came together to reclaim power from the billionaire ruling class. We led to this fight to build a world in which every person has housing and healthcare, dignity on the job, and workers' control. We led this fight to abolish ICE, to defund the police, and invest in our communities. So we have a long fight ahead of us, and we need to win these challenges. We have to continue building an energized base of people. We need a just, fair, livable future. There are millions of Pennsylvanians too who are left out of, excluded from the political process. We need to grow the labor movement. The labor movement won this for us. The labor movement needs to win it for us every day on the job and in the elections to come. And we need to grow the mass movements necessary to get all of this work done. The good news is all of this is possible. A supermajority of Americans supports the pillars for this agenda: Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, promises of citizenship for immigrants, real reforms for equal justice. This is our majority. We are the majority, and it is up to all of us to unite it through a shared political project. And we know that that shared political project is socialism. So I'm just so grateful to be fighting with all of you for that future. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikhil. And can we all just give a collective thank you to the city of Philadelphia for turning Pennsylvania blue? Thank you. Okay, so next we're gonna hear from Comrade Jack O'Brien, who's from Portland, Maine, chapter of the Democratic Socialists of America. Jack, are you there?
Hey.
Hey.
So I am here, just the slides are getting up. I'm here to tell you about a resounding success for democratic socialism in the Northeast. This is the People First Portland project. Next slide, please. So it's not that Portland, it's the other Portland, the first Portland, which is a little city, but the cultural and economic heart of the state of Maine. It's 67,000 people, it's 60% renters. It used to be a gritty working class city, and it has experienced some of the most rapid gentrification on the Eastern Seaboard. It has an extraordinarily expensive rental market. And of course, all of these things go together with a corporate-backed city council that won't lift a finger for anyone who isn't a landlord or a developer. One of the things it has going in its favor is a strong tradition of referendums, which we took advantage of. Next slide, please. So People First Portland was a project of the Southern Maine DSA that we started this in January, multiple societal ruptures ago. And the idea was to put a coherent set of referendums, not a single proposal, but a vision for what our city could do. And we had two interlocking goals. One is to present solutions that could actually work this year, things that the city could really implement. And then each one of them, we wanted to have actual material gains for the working class that would be immediately felt. Next slide, please. And so this is what we settled on. Minimum wage, $15 an hour, time and a half hazard pay during an emergencies. That means that Portland, Maine will have the highest minimum wage in North America. Ban on racist facial surveillance technology, something we call a local Green New Deal, which is fair wage contracting, the highest affordable housing provisions in the country, and green building codes. Next slide. Rent control, so rent index to inflation plus expenses, bans income discrimination, tenant board, publish statistics across the city so we can actually know what's going on in our market. And finally, a restriction on short-term rentals. Next slide. And so this movement became like a moment for our city where like all of the different groups, the unions, Black Lives Matter, the Labor Council, the Bernie-crats, the Greens, all came together in this amazing coalition against our opposition. Next slide, please. Which was the Chamber of Commerce, surprise, surprise, Airbnb Corporate, the National Association of Realtors, our local newspaper, 8 out of 9 of our city councilors, the entire real estate and restaurant industries, which in our little tourist city are pretty important. We were outspent 40-1. Last slide, please. And then we won 4 out of 5 with that 5th one right now into recount. Portland, Maine now has the highest minimum wage in North America. It has a facial surveillance ban, the beginnings of a real Green New Deal, rent control, and we're waiting just a little bit on short-term rentals, a resounding win for democratic socialism in the Northeast.
Thank you for sharing, Jack. I learned so much in that little time, and I think that we all can look to what you all are doing there as a blueprint for how we move forward in our cities. Certainly, congratulations on those wins. It's amazing. So next we're gonna hear from my sister, Farah Sufrat Forrest, who's also from Brooklyn, New York. Farah, are you there? Farah?
Yes, I am on. Hey, Bianca. Hello, everyone. As Bianca said, my name is Farah Souffrant Forrest. I am a registered nurse. I'm a tenant activist. And at the end of all of that, I am the assembly-elect for District 57 in Brooklyn, representing the best part, Prospect Heights, Clinton Hill, Fort Greene Park, and Crown Heights, and a little bit of that stuff. So, what does that all mean? I know, like we've been focusing on the national election, the end of fascism with Donald Trump, fighting back against the powers of capitalism when we're thinking about Biden. But I just want to say, as a slate member of 5 candidates, we are killing them, crushing them. It is a wonderful time to be an organizer in New York, and I think it's a wonderful time to be an organizer across the United States. And that's not me just giving lip service. That's saying that as a registered nurse, as a union member, I have beat an 8-year incumbent in Brooklyn, which is what they were saying was impossible. But that's what being a democratic socialist means. It means that we're making things that seemed impossible. We're changing the realities of our society. We're no longer the alternative. We are the viable option. And which is why, we got this President Biden, but this isn't the time to be complacent. This is the time to put on our organizing hats, right? I worked in housing, but I wasn't the one that was knocking on doors. That's not my talent. My talent was literally teaching. I'm a teacher. In everything I do, I teach. So that's the skills that I brought into the work that I'm doing in housing. But what does that mean for you? I don't know. Are you the one that's going to phone bank? Are you the one that's going to pick up and call your neighbor? Are you the one that's literally going to host a tenant association meeting? Are you the one that's just going to call and pick up and call a friend? Either way, this is the time. Yes, no more Trump. But what is still there is capitalism that is killing us. That is killing unions. That's killing, well, not killing unions, because we already know it's stronger than ever, whatever. But that's trying to kill us. And that's what we need to fight back against. This is not the time to sleep. We had brunch yesterday, Hans, but now it's time to go to work. Okay? So I wanted to use my 3 minutes to talk about really the way to have you think about ways that you can get involved. If this is your first DSA call, welcome. You're amongst friends. This is whatever you're thinking in your head, call somebody on the chapter or your DSA at large and call them up. But if this is your 1500 DSA meeting, honey, this is your call to. Call. This is your call to action. It's time to rock this. They don't know that DSA is rocking it because we did it in New York, we did it in Michigan, we did it in Chicago, and we're going to do it in your hometown too. So call to action, get up, get out, and get organized. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Farah. Get up, get out, get organized. I just want to stress the importance of organizations like DSA on this call. For those of you who said you aren't members, we really invite you to become a member. As Hannah said earlier and Christian said as well, it doesn't matter what brings you to this movement, what issue you care about. This is a big tent, multi-tendency, multiracial, multi-ethnic organization where we're working together to defeat capitalism, to defeat white supremacy, to defeat patriarchy. And so if you believe in Black liberation, if you believe in the liberation of workers, this is the call for you and this is the organization for you. So next we're gonna hear from Comrade Danna Schneider. Danna is the Arizona Organizing Director for Local 11 Unite Here. Danna, welcome.
Hello, beautiful comrades. My name is Danna Schneider. I use she, her, ella. I am, like Bianca said, I am one of the organizing directors for Unite Here Local 11 here in Arizona. So Local 11 is a kick-ass local union that represents hospitality workers, and we represent hospitality workers in Southern over 30,000 hospitality workers in Southern California and here in Arizona. You know, as you can imagine, our union and our members have been really devastated by this pandemic. Over 90% of our membership are laid off. Non-union workers in our industries are fired. And so we've been fighting on every front, right? We've been fighting with companies to extend healthcare and to have safe workplaces. We've been fighting with states like the state of Arizona, which has the second worst unemployment benefit in the country. We've been fighting at the federal level for relief packages. We've been fighting to pass laws in California and Arizona to protect hospitality worker jobs. But we also know as a union that we have to defeat fascism and we have to defeat Trump if we're ever going to see the other side of this pandemic, if our members are ever going to be able to return to work and provide stability for their families. And so, so we set out to do just that. We doubled down in Arizona, knowing Arizona was one of the key states. And we started to build a program, which was very unpopular. So Democratic Party was saying, hell no, we're not going to canvass. Our partner organizations were saying, hell no, we're not going to canvass. It's a pandemic. And we said, you know what? We have to find a way to do it, because we know that when our members talk to other members of the working class, that's how we mobilize disenfranchised communities to vote. And mobilizing those people is what we must do to defeat Trump. And so we retained an epidemiologist and we came up with a program with very, very strict protocols and goofy protocols. I mean, imagine, I know many of you have canvassed before, imagine canvassing with a mask and a face shield in 115-degree weather in August in Phoenix. That's what we were doing. So we built the program, and then we recruited mostly our members, our laid off hospitality workers, to hit the streets and to hit those doors. And we built an incredible thing. We ended up by election day having more than 400 canvassers. We hit 760,000 doors. We had over 250,000 conversations, and we saw with our own eyes over 7,000 ballots go into the mailbox or into the ballot drop box at voting locations, which, by the way, you might want to mark my words, but that might actually be the margin that we take Arizona by. So we're incredibly proud. We exported, Nikhil, shout out to you. We exported our protocols so that our Philly locals didn't have to recreate them from scratch, so that our Philly locals could get over 500 boots on the ground safely in Philadelphia. And so we're like super proud. We're super proud. We are celebrating. Actually, we're not celebrating. I'm out curing ballots. For those of you who know what that is, that's what I was doing all day today and yesterday, and I'll do all day tomorrow and do all day until 5 o'clock on Tuesday. We still have boots on the ground doing that every day to make sure that every vote gets counted. But then we immediately launch in to holding this new administration accountable to our values and our principles. We need organizing rights for unions. We need immigrant rights. We need to spring babies from baby jail. We need to reunite them with their families. We need to fight for Black lives. We need Medicare for all. These are the things that my union is fighting for. And we're pretty proud to do our part to save our country from fascism and lock arms to go on to the next fight to defeat this pandemic and to move our country forward. Because we've moved plenty back and now we need to go forward. So thank you, comrades. I was supposed to do a shout out to everyone on Facebook and YouTube, and this is such a beautiful site. I'm just so happy to be here with all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Danna. And also let's give a collective thank you to the tireless organizers on the ground in Arizona who have been working to push us towards this victory. Thank you so much for all the work that you've been doing to cure the ballots and get the vote out. And as socialist organizers, we know that often our job is to do the grunt work, is to do the dirty work when others want to take the shortcuts. We know that we truly have to do the deep organizing, and it's incumbent upon us. It's because we're actually concerned with democracy and with the material conditions of the workers, of ourselves, of our families, of our communities. So it's, if not us, then who? It's really on us. Nobody's going to save us. And that's a beautiful example of you all taking the reins on your own. Thank you for that. Thank you. So next, we're gonna have we're gonna hear from a longtime comrade of mine. Many of you may know him, Jabari Brisport, also a colleague in New York City DSA. Jabari, are you there?
I'm here, Bianca. Good to see you.
How are you?
Oh my God, good to see you. And everybody that's on the call, hello. I know you thought you were done with Brooklyn, but we back in here. My name is Jabari Brisport, public school teacher in Brooklyn, and also the incoming state senator for the 25th State Senate District in New York. That's Central and West Brooklyn. Hello, thank you for being on this call on a Sunday night to organize a better future. Listen, I gotta acknowledge some emotions I'm feeling because this week is in a whirlwind, and I know that some of y'all probably have the same emotions. I'll start with one. I'm relieved that the Cheeto 45 is going home in January. I'm also embarrassed that we barely squeaked by. I'm embarrassed for the Democrats. Yeah, I'm embarrassed that in the easiest election ever, they barely squeaked by that victory. I'm also pissed. I'm pissed at the collusion to stop Bernie Sanders in 2016 and this year when they came harder. I'm also pissed that the Democrats ran a bunch of boring, centrist, moderate down ballot candidates, lost, and blamed progressives and Black Lives Matter protests. I'm pissed at the gaslighting of the left. But at the moment we're living in, because I'm excited there's 500 plus people on the Zoom, and I think I saw somebody say 400 watching on Facebook. And you know what? I'm hopeful for the future because I know when we fight, we win. All right? I know that when we get together, we put the social in social. And I know that's corny, but you got to bear with me because I'm a middle school teacher and all I know how to do is be corny when I'm talking to people. Listen, we understand that it's about solidarity. It's about getting together, building stuff together, knowing that organizing is going beyond Twitter, but we love our Twitter. We know it's about getting on these calls of hundreds of people and saying we are going to build a better world because we know a better future is possible and that we are unstoppable if we keep fighting. When we fight, we win. What do we win? You heard a slew of things coming out of Portland. Across the country, we're winning these elections. We win ballot measures. We change the conversation. We shift the Overton window. We make people, the right people, our enemies, afraid of us because they know we're going to shift power away from the corporate elites, from the rich elite of our country, and shift it into working class people, into marginalized communities, and give them agency for the first time in our nation's history. I know that when we win, we can indeed win a Green New Deal. We can indeed defund the police. We can get a homes guarantee. We can get healthcare for all. We can eliminate student debt. And what I want you to do right now is I want you to sound off in the comment section about what we are going to win, because tonight it's something you're typing into the Zoom chat, but tomorrow it's the headline when we win. So in the chat, sound off. What are we in? Thanks.
Oh, you just did a mic drop there, and I was like not even ready for it. Thank you, Jabari. Thank you. I see people saying we're going to win abolishing ICE, freedom all, Medicare for all, student relief, an independent socialist party, public housing, worker cooperatives, cancel the rent, a universal basic income, and the list goes on and on. Renewable energy. Yes, yes, yes to all of this. These are the headlines that we want to see. So thank you, Jabari, for that rousing remarks, those rousing remarks. So now I want to talk about, we've heard a lot about electoral, from our electoral candidates and about voter-based initiatives, but we as socialists know that our strength is that we're accountable, we're in a democratic accountable organization, meaning we're multi-tendency, we're multi-ethnic, we come from different backgrounds, and we all think that different things are important, respectively. And so that means that some of our comrades are working on defunding the police while others are working for Medicare for all or for a Green New Deal. And we understand that all those fights are tied into one another. But we also understand that those are not wins that we get necessarily through the ballot box. These are things that you've heard members of the squad like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez say, that we actually need a movement in the streets to hold leaders accountable, but also to be the mouthpiece, to do the talking, to prove that there's a movement and there are people's desire behind the initiatives that they're trying to pass. And so it's so important that we organize deeply in our communities. And so I just want to talk about stuff that we can do beyond, or stuff that's happening beyond electoral work in this organization. So first of all, you heard a lot of people tonight talking about defunding the police. I'm so proud that DSA, Afro-Socialists and Socialists of Color Caucus, which is a caucus of non-white members and non-members of the DSA, came together in coalition with organizations like Sunrise Movement and Black Youth Project 100, or also Critical Resistance, as well as Dream Defenders, as well as others, to come together to do we saw an opportunity where people were saying defunding the police, but people didn't have like a real understanding of what we meant by abolish the police, or even what a framework for defund looks like. And so we came together to develop curriculum with this coalition, and we're able to train over 5,000 people this summer on what it means to defund the police, what we mean by abolition politics, how we can move people that way. I hear a lot of people in different communities are frustrated and saying, well, people were saying defund the police around the George Floyd murder, but now they're kind of second guessing it. Well, it's all about how we frame it. I think that we need to really talk about how it's so much about reinvesting in other parts, and other services in other parts of our communities. For instance, our public school system. It's also a great opportunity to be in coalition with labor groups and workers who need the funding that we see the police are getting every single year, while our teachers are forced to buy their own school supplies or go without personal protective equipment. I'm outraged about this. You all should be outraged about this too. And so we really need to set up the defund the police demand in a way that talks about reinvestment in other parts of our community, like our public healthcare systems, as well as our public education systems. So that is first and foremost. There's a lot of defund work going on all around the country, in different places. It'll look different for different people. And even if you don't win the first time, hey, even in a progressive city, you hear all of the great things that we have going on in New York City. We weren't able to get our police defunded. As a matter of fact, they increased their budget this year. But we are more organized, we're more determined, and we have a great coalition working together that we feel like we're prepared for next year's budget fight. And we'll continue to do so because that's what socialism is about. Oftentimes we don't get big victories. That's why it's so important that we celebrate the ones that we do, because this fight is long and it's tough. So be prepared for that. The second thing is Medicare for all. You heard somebody say 70% of voters voted and said that they support Medicare for all. We know, like Jabari said, that it's very frustrating the way that the Democrats kind of fumbled this and that it was so close. But we know the difference is that while the Democrats talk about things like unity and respectability and they're fixated on personalities, we as socialists are dedicated to issues, right? We're dedicated to organizing regardless of the people who come and go in positions. And so we're dedicated to Medicare for all. We know that people want Medicare for all, and we know that we have the message that resonates with the masses. And so we need to go with this mandate and really challenge and hold Joe Biden accountable. He says he's not going to pass Medicare for all. We have something else to say about that. And I believe we have a really robust coalition of folks, particularly coming out of this pandemic or going through this pandemic, where we have a moral mandate to provide healthcare for all people in this country. Another hot issue that we're going to work on that's really important, and I would argue the most critical issue, is passing the Green New Deal. You hear Joe Biden say that he's not committed to ending fracking. You hear him saying that he'll maybe pass a version of the Green New Deal. We as socialists understand that we're in a climate crisis. We believe scientists. We want to come out of this, archaic, caveman mentality that we've been in, where we're rejecting science. We want to embrace science, and we also want to take drastic measures. And I don't mean like turning straws to paper. I mean like holding corporations accountable for their carbon footprint. And so we need to continue to push. And I think this is going to be the fight of our lives, as our generation fights for a world that we can survive on, and that the generations following us will be able to survive on. And another thing that's really important is unions. I myself come out of the labor movement. I organized my own workplace to start a union. It's very hard, it's very scary, but it's very necessary. I think it's completely exciting, all of the worker organizing that's come out of this moment, this horrific moment of a pandemic. We have projects in DSA, like the Emergency Workplace Organizing Committee, which is partnered with the United Electrical Workers, which is a union to reach out and help workers across the country fight for better conditions on the job around health and safety related to COVID, and also helping them to form unions and worker organizations and exercise democracy on the shop floor. We also have a Democratic Socialist Labor Commission. I just finished facilitating a call earlier where we were talking about Black Postal Lives Matter, and we were able to hear from Black letter carriers and postal workers from around the country talking about the importance of the mail-in votes, but also talking about the precarity of the postal worker situation right now. We know that Trump attacked the post office. Post office has been under attack. It's threats of privatization, trying to do voter suppression, and trying to just completely gut this public service. This is a great example of socialism in this country. The post office belongs to all of us, and we have an opportunity to expand it into things like postal banking. So it's important now more than ever that workers are given a platform, and that we really become the people who are responsive to their needs, that we're carrying that message, because we see that the Democrats have kind of have distanced themselves and let the workers down, and the workers see that as well. And so it's really on us to provide a different message, to provide a message of that we can win on material changes in the future. And so I just want to share a little bit. So DSA's national campaigns for a Green New Deal and Medicare for All are planning targeted mass actions all across the country early next month to put forward a socialist agenda and put the next administration on notice. While Democrats keep coasting by in their failures, DSA is building the power the working class needs to save ourselves. Join DSA and stay tuned for announcements about how to organize and plug into our mass actions in December from wherever you are. So thank you for that. And next, we're gonna go to a longtime organizer, labor organizer and labor strategist, someone who's been so gracious with their time to lend their expertise and knowledge to us. Jane McAlevey, welcome.
Hey, thanks, Bianca. It's really great to be here. What a dynamic call with all these like Victories people kicking in, from whether it was Danna talking about how to like wrap down Maricopa County in Arizona and win, or starting off with the amazing report from Nikil in Philadelphia. So really exciting to be here. I couldn't think of a better way to spend actually a little bit of time on Sunday night after I think we all probably took a nap, little nap, and now it's time for some serious work, except in Arizona, keep counting. So a few things. I just want to share a few thoughts that I've been churning over for many days, if not many years, with all of you. And one is, when I wake up in the morning, I think, like, what is the role of all of you? And what's the role of DSA, like, in this really crucial moment? I think the challenge is to go from thinking and acting like activists to thinking and acting like organizers. And what it means, I think, is spending a hell of a lot of time focused on organizing and not just mobilizing. Now, by the way, we're coming out of a moment that required huge mobilization. That is what an election is, like, by definition. It is a mobilization effort. But in order to win, we have to do a lot of organizing before we get to the mobilizing moment, right? Before we can actually challenge and figure out, do the lists we have, are the numbers going to add up? Is our get out the vote operation going to work? There has to be a hell of a lot of organizing done to get us to have the kind of list that we need to win. So there's a couple of things. One is, we know, sadly, that about 70 million people pulled the lever for a very, very dangerous platform. What's a more important number is that 80 million people who could have voted didn't vote. There are 80 million people in this country who actually could have voted and didn't actually make it to the polls. And that, I think, is the work in part for DSA. Where are those 80 million people? Why did they sit home? How did we miss the capacity to engage them in the work? Like, that's what the organizing work is. Worrying a little bit less about the 70 million, could we peel 20 million from them? There's 80 million people who could have actually participated in this election who actually didn't. So I want to talk about two words that are usually my favorite words ever, which is method and discipline. And the beautiful thing about this call is Nikhil led with a rap about strategic discipline in Philadelphia in his campaign. I was like, oh, good, I don't even have to worry about it because strategic and discipline already came out. And it came out again when we were hearing from Portland, Maine, about the really good victories. I'm looking forward to some more analysis about the Portland campaign. And boy, I hope you kick it in the short-term rentals victory too. Looking forward to hearing about that. But I, as someone who has spent most of my adult life working on very, very hard to win trade union campaigns where workers were facing really stiff odds in campaigns that, by the way, feel in every single unionization campaign the way Trump just made this country feel in terms of like terror and fear and division and ripping people apart. What we know is to overcome that kind of vicious effort to divide and conquer people is we need to have a lot of hard conversations. We need to work as activists on our capacity and our skill so that we are really successful in moving the 80 million people next time around into an electoral cycle. Now, I like to move people into strikes too. By the way, I'm happy to talk about strikes till the cows come home, but we're reflecting on the election. And there's a relationship between strikes and elections. And what they both share is, do we have the kind of organization built that has the kind of power required to go after the kind of demands that just showed up in that chat, right? When Jabari asked, what is it we're going to go win? And we're talking about Medicare for all, the Green New Deal, and getting police off of people's necks and every other damn thing we need. And I'm going to say it, like, we're facing some austerity crisis that is going to be so deep and so profound in the near term that figuring out how to hold the line on the austerity that's coming, even in places like California, where, by the way, we kind of got our asses kicked on some major ballot initiatives, which should lead to critical reflection. Like, we have to be self-critical. Like, one thing socialists have to do, organizers have to do, is be critical in our reflections about what did we do well and what do we have to come back and do even better. But what we know is we're facing a wicked Supreme Court, wicked. We're facing really intense austerity fights coming. And to be able to overcome them, which we can, requires a lot of discipline and a lot of method. It requires strategically focusing on our work, whether that's chapter by chapter or nationally. Like, what's the role of the trade unions in the work we're doing? What's the role of DSA in terms of, I already heard a bunch of people talking about organizing their workplace from the opening of this call on. How do you set priorities? Because, by the way, people, I mean, I want to work on every campaign that everyone just listed in the chat since I got on this call. But if I did that, I'd be ineffective at all of them. Like, we have to figure out, to win, we have to have method and discipline. We have to have strategic capacity. We have to set some priorities. And I think we have to do a lot of what DSA is doing more and more of, which I find really comforting, which is engaging in things that have yes and no victories at the end so that we can actually assess how good is the organization that we're building. There's a lot of victories on this call tonight, and we need way more of them to build the power required to actually take down the CEOs and the capitalist class from Silicon Valley to Wall Street that are about to try and run roughshod over us in terms of austerity budgets and making more money come out of working class folks and not making them pay. So we have a lot of work to do. I'm super excited about it. I want to share one last thought with you. As a trade union organizer who has spent most, though not all of my time, helping workers win really hard fought unionization campaigns, it's a lot like the moment that we're in right now, in this moment, because when workers fight to win a really hard unionization election, like to form a union for the first time, all the workers have won is the right to then fight for the policies that they have to win in their first contract. And that is the moment that we're in. Like, we can just take a breath of, a breath for the first time, I feel like in 4 years, but we got to get up and win and fight for the equivalent of the first contract right now, which means take a nap, build some solidarity, dust it off, and get ready with method and discipline to go fight for and win the kind of policies that we all need in this country. There's some defensive work and some offensive work, and all of it takes method, discipline, priority setting. You can do it. Shift from just activism into waking up in the morning to talk to people who don't talk to you, who are not in your social media feeds, and that's going to bring us more victories. And I'm so excited about the work that DSA is doing.
Thanks so much, Jane. Oh, I'm going to jump in, Bianca. Should I go? Okay, I'm going to say thank you to Bianca. Amazing. Thank you for taking us from person to person. Thank you again to Jane. I'm actually about to enter our first contract fight. So that was a needed message. So y'all have been on this call with us tonight. We've heard from so many amazing DSA members and comrades on this call. Like Farah said, this call is your call. So let's go out and let's grow this big, broad, beautiful movement. Let's grow DSA and let's transform our world. Let's do that organizing that Jane talked about tonight. So now we're gonna have a quick poll. This is the commitment part of the meeting. If you're an organizer, we're making commitments tonight on this call. So if you are on the call, fill out the poll. Can you commit to asking 3 friends and family members or co-workers to join DSA? Yes, but I need some help, right? We're an organization that's about transformation, about growing and learning to organize, or you're not sure. So go ahead and fill out the poll. Again, thank you so much to all our amazing folks who were on the call tonight. I'm so fired up. I'm so ready to go into our first contract fight here in Lawrence, Kansas. So ready to keep fighting on the ground to defund the police, abolish ICE, expand reproductive freedom, fight for a Green New Deal, win Medicare for all, and real COVID relief. So excited to keep doing this organizing with all of you. I'm waiting on the poll. Y'all, this is going to be a rerun of the poll the first time. Maybe it's coming. Oh my gosh, it's back. Okay, so exciting. All right, look at this. 60% of us, 66% of us said, yes, we are going to commit to that. So Jen is going to talk about how to do that and join DSA and get your friends and family to join DSA.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jen. I use she, her pronouns. I live in Eugene, Oregon, and I am a member of your National Political Committee. We're going to put some links up as a slide here, and I want to talk to you about them, some exciting things we have going. First, if you have not already, join DSA, dsausa.org/join. You should join us. DSA has changed my life and it can change yours too. It's been fantastic and I love it. Next, build with us. We're having a call on building a mass organization. We're going to talk about what Jane just said about going from thinking like activists to thinking like organizers. So join that call with us if you're members. If you're a student, learn about YDSA. Get on a YDSA Q&A call. You see the link there, join us. Now, I want to thank some people who helped make this call possible. Maria, our national director, thank you. To Michael and Glenn and our fantastic workers on staff, thank you. Kevin and Megan from the National Political Committee, thank you. Serena from YDSA, thank you. Hannah, Christian, Bianca, Nikhil, Farah, Danna, Jabari, and Jane, thank you. We are going to organize. We're going to continue to build DSA. And we're going to continue to fight for a better world that we know is possible. Join DSA, learn about what we're doing. Let's get out there and let's keep organizing. Thank you so much for being on this call. And I am so excited to organize with you. Thank you.